Hello and welcome to the YouTube re-upload of our character profile for Elsie Tanner, which was taken from episode 18 of the podcast, so way back in 2012. And I have to say, this is maybe one of our most threadbare character profiles, is it not?
It was very, I wouldn't say it was low effort, because I don't know how long you spent doing it, but we really didn't go through Elsie's life.
That's just twigs thing in my mind, honestly, right now. I think that this is one that I asked you to do the notes for.
Oh, so you're blaming me?
I'm not blaming you, literally.
It sounds like you are.
No, I think that I asked you to do it for that way. I don't know why this has just come to me.
I don't believe that you would ever ask me, knowing what a control freak you are.
No, I think I was like really busy one week. And it was like, because neither of us knew anything to do with Elsie Tanner at the time, did we? We hadn't watched her. We knew that she was obviously a big name in old Coronation Street, but I don't know, because she's not like... I don't know why she was such a blind spot in our curry past.
I do, because we didn't watch it until she left.
But we knew who Hilda was, we knew who Annie Walker was, we could have said a bit about her. Oh, okay, I could, but didn't know anything about Elsie Tanner other than she was some sexy minx from the 60s.
Well, let's be honest, she didn't do a lot when she came back, did she? She left the show for a little bit, and then she came back at the end of the 70s, and she did not do very much and make much of an impact.
No. Well, I really love Elsie now, so this character profile that's coming up is a little bit shameful, and maybe at some point in the future we'll give it another go.
Well, when I listened to this, because I knew that we had done it without watching any of her episodes, and when I listened to it, I was actually quite pleased that we didn't do a proper blow-by-blow account of her life and what she'd gotten up to, because it means we can revisit it. So I'm happy that this is just a potted history of Elsie Tanner. Nothing we said was wrong, I don't think. Listening back to it, we got all the major details right, I believe. But obviously it was done by two people who did not know what they were talking about.
Yeah, just had a read of Coropedia and parroted it back.
Apparently it was compiled by an idiot.
No.
Why are you throwing me under the bus?
I'm not. It literally just came to me.
Especially considering I don't have any recollection of this whatsoever.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Should we get on and let our dear viewers / listeners find out about Elsie Tanner, just in case they know even less than we did at the time of recording it? We'll come back at the end, and we've probably got a few other things to say as well. So here is our episode 18 character profile of Elsie Tanner.
So it's the classic character profile this week. We've got Elsie Tanner, because Dennis Tanner's been in it so much, he decides to go back into the murky past of Coronation Street and discover a classic Corrie character.
Yeah, no, this isn't a character that either of us know too much about, because we obviously didn't watch it back then.
No.
We've seen her in clips.
Well, her last appearance was 4th of January 1984, which was... We couldn't speak English when she was on the television.
I wasn't even one.
No. So the actual character herself, Elsie Tanner, who was also known as Elsie Grimshaw and Elsie Howard, was born on the 5th of March in 1923. And her first appearance on the street was the 9th of December in 1960.
Yeah, that was the first episode.
And the last, as I said, was 4th of January 1984. She was in 1,624 episodes and was played by the legendary Pat Phoenix.
Yeah, I think we all remember sort of one of her early lines of Elsie, you're almost ready for Knacker's Yard.
That's a very classic line.
That's the one that they just show of her if they're going to show a clip of Elsie.
No, get the Elsie Tanner clip. What the Knacker's Yard one? Yes, yeah. Obviously. So she had the personality traits were that she was very abrasive, argumentative, disruptive. She had lots of lovers who turned out to be married, or she had lovers when she was married.
She was like the classic feisty, strong Corrie woman.
Yeah.
The kind of character that Coronation Street was based on, really.
Yeah, the sort of Tony Warren's sort of childhood memories of these brassy northern women who were glam but had heart. Yeah. So like Elsie was always wanted to be glamorous, and she wanted people to think highly of her, but her various mishaps had people's tongues wagging. And I think she was quite a tough character, but yet vulnerable inside.
Well, exactly, and that's why she was so loved, because she had her a soft side as well.
Exactly. So there's a bit of a backstory to this character before the show even began.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually. Some of the fiction that's been written about Coronation Street
gives her a backstory.
Yeah, right back to the war days. And this is Darren Little that wrote a book on Coronation Street during the war. He was one of the Corrie archivists.
He's a talking head on most Corrie documentaries.
Yeah, he knows his stuff when it comes to Coronation Street.
He should do a podcast. We'd have to give up.
If he did a rival podcast, I think he would definitely
we'd just quit.
Blow us out of the water.
So the backstory for Elsie Tanner is that she was pregnant at 16 by Arnold Tanner, who was 20. And they had to quickly get married before the baby was born, and then she moved into number 11 on the street, where she lived on and off for the rest of her life. And then Arnold, her husband, enlisted during the war, leaving her alone, and she gave birth in Annie Walker's living room, with Ina Sharples delivering the child who was Linda.
If I was making up a backstory of something that hadn't been on TV, I'd probably try and make it as dramatic as possible, or have something that they couldn't possibly feel. I'd like...
Yeah, like Spitfire crashed into the house and she went into labour, and the pilot delivered it. And then the baby was the mascot for the squadron for the rest of the war or something.
That would have been good.
Got 3 Jerry's for Linda today.
Carry on.
So she lived on the street from 1939 to 1973, and then from 1976 to 1984, always at number 11. And then first of all with her husband Arnold Tanner, and then just with her 2 children, Linda and Dennis, who left the street in the 1960s. They were both a bit naughty and...
Yeah. Oh, you can tell from Dennis now that he's a bit of a cheeky lad,
We're not going to go through every last detail of Elsie's life year by year.
No, there's so much, and to be honest, a lot of it doesn't mean very much to us.
No, I mean, it's very...
we can't comment on it ourselves.
No, exactly. So we're just going to give a quick sort of biography of what basically happened. She obviously had lots of dating issues, and she tried to keep honourable rules. She tried to sort of keep to a certain code, but unfortunately the men in her life didn't seem to play fair with her.
No.
She dated Bill Gregory, Len Fairclough, Dave Smith, and eventually married the American Steve Tanner, and then back to Alan Howard.
Now, I can't remember. I was reading about her yesterday. Steve Tanner. Now, was he supposed to be any relation to Arnold Tanner that she married first?
I don't know.
I think I read that when they married her off to Steve Tanner, that they gave the character Steve the surname Tanner just so that she could still be Elsie Tanner, because the character of Elsie Tanner was so iconic. They didn't want to change her name. I think I read that right. But
that's why, yeah. Don't change your name if you're an iconic character. That's what I say. So despite her mishaps in love, she soldiered on. Met Steve during the war originally, but their fairy tale marriage in 1967 dissolved after it turned out that he was an alcoholic.
Oh no.
She was living with him in America, but she returned back, and he was murdered during a brawl. Then she married Alan, but she turned out to be an alcoholic as well, and she had to be the main breadwinner.
Did she drive all her husbands to drink?
It sounds like it. They moved to Newcastle, but split up after 3 years, and she came back to number 11 and took in various lodgers, including Gail Potter.
Yeah, Gail Tilsley of now.
Also Susie Birchall and Marion Willis.
Yeah.
And she had quite a few different jobs, including working at Miami Mode's dress department, and the show began, and then a croupier, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Model, florist, receptionist, salesperson, and a supervisor in Mike Baldwin's denim factory. But unfortunately, her final job was come down from that, as she had to take a job as a machinist in Baldwin's Casuals.
Yeah, she always wanted to better herself. It's a bit like Kylie, her thing. She
wants more for her life, and she tried to work for it.
Yeah, trying to work her way out of the gutter.
Yeah. She ran off with Bill Gregory in 1983, who's her old flame from 1962, and she went off to Portugal to run a wine bar. I think Gloria has been reading her biography, because that was what she said she'd been up to. So that was the last we heard of Elsie after she went off to Portugal to sort of live out her dream romance, until, as you say, Dennis came to the street and revealed the fate of Elsie, and an episode aired on the 13th of May 2011. He told Rita that Elsie had remained married to Bill in Portugal, and then she died in a car crash at 81 when her sports car fell off a cliff.
See, now that's the kind of thing that you can say happens, so you don't have to show it on telly.
Yes. Now, I think Rita reacted as if to say, "Oh well, at least she died. How did she want to live?" or something. It's like, no, I don't think so.
No, it's a bit of a tragic ending.
Everyone
really,
says it was a really happy end. I've been reading comments on the internet where people wrote after the original episode was aired saying, "Oh, what a brilliant ending to a fiery woman." Like,
to die in a fiery inferno of a crashed car.
If I had a choice, I don't think I'd want to die in a car crash at 81.
No, it's a bit sad, really. But they obviously couldn't bring the actress back because she died.
They had to kill her.
Yeah.
They couldn't be like, "Oh, well, Elsie Tanner, my old mum, yeah, she's still going."
Yeah.
Like, no, she had to have an ending. But I guess she was a very dramatic character.
Yeah.
And having a dramatic exit makes sense.
Yeah, it's quite nice having a Tanner back on the street, though, isn't it? Because she was such an iconic character and so well remembered. And now we have Dennis back again.
So carrying on the torch.
Exactly, and Rita's a Tanner as well. It's obviously not going to last because they're not going to live forever.
They're not going to have children.
It's nice that the name still lives on.
For now.
Even though I still find Rita Tanner a bit of a funny one to say.
What was her name before that?
Sullivan.
Oh yeah, that's right. I don't know why they bother having different surnames.
Just to keep the viewers on their toes.
Just to keep the person who does the credits at the end, just to keep them busy.
Yeah, because people get remarried so often, like you can't keep up.
I don't think, to be honest, I know we keep taking the mick out of Coronation Street and all the other soaps for the amount of like relationship mishaps and divorces and remarriages, but there's a few people I know in real life who are going down the same lines. Just have numbers, don't have surnames, just have numbers.
Yeah.
And then when
Elsie
you get
3.
Yeah. Anyway, Elsie Tanner has also been portrayed by other actresses than Pat Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
She was played by Kim Marsh in the Corrie musical, and also Jodie Prenger, who was a West End actress.
Yeah.
And she was also played by Jessie Wallace in The Road to Coronation Street, which is a documentary
that was
we
really
watched.
good.
If you guys haven't seen, I'm sure you have. If you haven't seen The Road to Coronation Street, you should definitely watch it because it's a drama based on the conception of Coronation Street in the first episodes.
Yeah, sort of the troubles that Tony Warren went through to get this.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, because it's like back in those days they didn't have northern accents on TV or anything. They didn't think anyone would watch it or understand it. It was really, really interesting, and Jessie Wallace does do a good job.
I haven't seen enough of Pat Phoenix in the role to know that she did a good impression, but she was very convincing, and she did a good job of it. And there's also her final quote on the street, which what made her a little bit mysterious, because she got into the taxi to leave to go to this train station, and the driver said, "Are you going to be away for long?" And she gives him a knowing smile and says, now there's a question," and leaves to go. Now that's a good closing line. I think
Bette Lynch Bette Gilroy had quite a bit like that as well, something very similar.
Now most Corrie brassy ladies should really have responded with, "Mind your own business."
That's what Ina Sharples would have said.
So we asked
Don't pay her to talk, pay her to drive.
We asked some of our listeners to write in with their thoughts about Elsie's character.
Yeah.
And we got a few responses. Diane Johnston says, "Oh, Elsie Tanner. She was the original tart with a heart, a good time girl during the war, scandalising Ina Sharples. She had a redhead's temper, struggled to bring up her kids, who didn't thank her for it. Dennis in particular caused her no end of a headache. Len Fairclough was her best friend and he loved her, but she would never marry him. Why ruin a perfectly good friendship?" After her marriage to American soldier Steve Tanner broke up, she came home, and Len was the one that made her realise it wasn't all her fault and she could hold her head up. Steve was a man she'd loved during the war, and we met many years later in the 60s. He ended up dead at the bottom of the stairs a couple of years later after their divorce. Len was accused, but it was an old army mate of his, Joe Donnelly. What done it?
Catherine Burgess said, "I remember Elsie and her Barneys with Ina Sharples. Ina didn't think much of Elsie's morals, or what she thought of a lack of them, and made no bones about letting her know. I remember there's a few good clips of Elsie and Ina having an argument. There's the one, isn't there, Ina Sharple smashes her handbag into Elsie's window. Have you seen that one? Her very single glazed window.
Yeah, you can see that these days.
But, you know, despite it all, they had a grudging respect for each other, and there were times when they had very touching scenes together. We need more characters like Elsie Tanner. Some of the female actors seem to be trying, but they aren't succeeding. What do you think of that comment?
The bit about the touching scenes together kind of reminds me of Gail and Eileen.
Yeah.
Because there have been moments when they've sort of had to bond. I do like it when you get little mortal enemies having a little.
Well, it's like
time out.
Mike Baldwin and Ken Barlow,
exactly.
isn't it?
Yeah, that was good.
But are there any female characters that are like Elsie at the moment? Sort of bold, brassy, feisty women.
We were talking about this the other day, and I said that I think probably the nearest they've got at the moment is Kylie.
Yeah,
she's too young, really.
Exactly, you can't sort of put her up against Elsie Tanner.
No, I mean, I don't think they're trying to make another Elsie.
I think Becky could have definitely.
Becky's certainly.
Gone that way.
Although she's my favourite character, and I think the street isn't as good without her.
No.
I don't think she was ever in it for long enough to have really justified.
To have the legacy.
Yeah, exactly. She's not a legendary character.
No.
She should have been if she had stayed in longer, but that was the actress's decision to leave.
Yeah. So maybe we'll see Kylie.
So what do you guys think? Do you think that there's anyone who can rival Elsie Tanner? Whether they've been in it and they're not in it anymore? You know, a character who might have left recently.
Or if there's anyone at the moment that you think has potential to be the next Elsie. Let us know.
Joyce J. McCall was the final comment, and she said, Elsie lit up the street. She was a Corrie inspiration.
So
that was our little tribute to Elsie. I don't think we really did her justice because we've not seen enough of her in action.
No.
But we didn't have time to watch 30 Years of Coronation Street to prepare for this.
We're not that dedicated.
We don't have that much time.
No.
Sometimes it's hard enough to watch 2.5 hours.
There you are. Thorough, full history of Elsie Tanner, or maybe not. So I think maybe we need to update those sometime, because we've now seen an awful lot more of her episodes, more than none, and she's gone down as quite a favourite of ours, hasn't she?
Yes, definitely. And we were saying at the end of that we didn't have time to watch 30 years worth of Coronation Street, which is quite ironic considering that's what we've been doing this year.
We have. It's been our little mission this year. We had not watched every single episode that she's in, but we've seen enough to really rocket her up my all-time favourite characters list.
Definitely.
More so from her first 10-15 years maybe. She immediately caught my attention. You can tell watching those 1960s episodes why she was the main woman of Coronation Street, almost why she was the big name, the one that everyone liked. I mean, there were so many big names back in the day, weren't there? But Elsie had so much spark and pizzazz and charisma. She was just a breathtaking character.
And a well-written part too. And obviously an original character by Tony Warren, which is a very special thing to be, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed her relationship with her son Dennis. That Dennis's wedding was lovely.
Yeah, and Linda, and even just the first episode, and she's so fantastic. So many great Elsie moments. So many. It was really funny because we actually only just recently, yesterday, when was it, watched the final episode of Elsie in
which is one of the reasons why I thought it would be good for us to upload this to YouTube, to put a coda on our time watching her on the DVDs.
And as she got a really good final episode, I thought, final scene, where she wandered them down the street and she was having those echoey callback moments where she recollected things that she had said before, which Coronation Street likes to do. But it was so funny because every single line, she was walking around smiling and nostalgic, and all of her lines were like, go and die, Ina Sharples, or Dennis Tanner, you're the worst son I've ever had in my life. It was all just her haranguing people, which I thought was really funny.
She had a lot of fire in her belly, did Elsie. Those fights that she had with Ina Sharples were legendary, weren't they?
Yeah.
The two, there was the High Noon one and then one a few years later, both two two powerhouses having a slanging match in the street, and neither would back down. The antagonism between Ina and Elsie was fantastic.
Yeah, lots of friction and conflict and big personalities trying to coexist in a small street.
Yeah, she was a big personality. It's just a shame that when she came back after her time away, it just didn't quite recapture it for me. She
fizzled out a little bit, but at least she got to go and live with her.
Yeah, she did, and to be fair,
lost love.
Bill at the end. Mm-hmm. Those final few episodes that we watched at the end of 1983, early 1984, she got back some of her fire that she'd lost. I think she'd settled into a life of just looking after a few waifs and strays like Susie and Gail for a bit,
it was really funny that
and then
she
Marion.
Gail. Yeah, Gail living with her.
Yeah, but she certainly got it back.
And she got to sort of be the princess or the queen of some, the thing about Elsie is that I guess she really wanted to be loved at the end of the day, and she never found anybody that was really good enough for her. But when he found Bill, her,
again,
because they had
one of her old loves.
Yeah.
Come back,
and he wanted to treat her like a princess and whisk her away, and she was going to be queen of her castle, which is what she's always deserved to have.
It really reminded me of Becky's exit, didn't it? Becky McDonald's, where she finds the man, jets off into the sunset, and just lovely.
And it feels like it is a very fast exit, but actually it makes sense as like an epilogue almost.
Also interesting with Elsie was the relationship with Len, and I wonder whether that was a contributing factor to her, fizzling out a little bit. When he married Rita, there was never a chance, there, that Elsie and Len would get together, because for the first 10, 15 years or however long it was, there was the will they, won't they was brilliant. We obviously watching it knew that they never would get together, but Pat and Peter had such electric chemistry together.
I also didn't say in the feature discussion I called him Len Fairclough.
Did you? Nice. Do you remember the episode where she was having a breakdown or something, and he came around and comforted her?
Around her face.
There was an episode where a whole half of an episode, the second half of an episode, was just like almost one long scene between those two. They didn't need anyone else. They were such a great couple together that really, never were really romantically.
Yeah.
It makes you think that would never happen these days. They'd just end up together, wouldn't they?
End up together.
But what a woman Elsie Tanner was. Fantastic character. Okay, she wasn't perfect all the way through, but when she was good, she was fantastic.
One thing I liked about her recently that we saw was when Len died, and she went round to talk to Rita and her thoughts about Len and what kind of a man he was, and I just really thought she was a really great character.
And Rita was kind of brought in as a second Elsie. It felt
almost,
like, wasn't it? Because we Len's type. Sorry, the redhead, the fiery, sexy redhead.
Yeah.
Which Rita once was, believe it or not. But, love her. I implore you all listening, if you haven't gone and seen some of Elsie's best episodes, get on YouTube, watched episode 1 or the Elsie Ina argument in the street episodes. There's so many great moments.
Such an icon, and for such good reason.
Yeah, and maybe we'll revisit her again on the podcast, like you said.
I think we definitely should.
Yeah, to give her a proper dues.
Because it was like, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
I don't think you can really do a 15-minute character profile on Elsie Tanner.
She deserves more.
Yeah, definitely.
She'll get it one day.
Yes.
Right, thank you everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed this. And we'll be back next week, I expect, with another character profile, so look out for that.